on the Zim. This is the Zim video, and this is a kind of a casual recap of what went down this summer. Kind of doing this under the banner of MFA Chronicles on YouTube. So I have to specify because I'm using MFA Chronicles for a couple things. I'm using it as a podcast, MFA Chronicle podcast, where I'm talking to other artists, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. But on YouTube, it's just kind of like MFA Chronicles is just kind of like documenting my own personal journey through going to art school as a graduate student at San Diego State University. So this video will be mostly about just what happened this summer. I'm kind of trying to keep it focused on art. I'm trying to keep focused on continuing my MFA journey through the summer, even though I'm not enrolled in school. I consider the 3 complete years that I'm in the program is part of my, being an artist and continuing to do these things. And I'm going after it. It's not just like I'm going to classes and that's it. I'm doing it. I'm straight up doing it. So it's kind of what's going on there. But there'll be also a little bit, if this is your first time on this channel, there'll be a little bit of channel update kind of stuff, get to know me a little bit better. So thanks a lot for watching, thanks a lot for hanging out. But again, just a casual conversation. I'll probably throw some things on the screen as I talk about certain things, but it's kind of long form. I don't know how long this is going to be. I tend to go long, so we'll see how it plays. I have a list of stuff to talk to you about, so let me just jump into it. So this summer started, we're in pandemic times, COVID times, and so it's mainly been focused on being here in the studio. I didn't drive, as you've seen on this channel before. I was possibly going to drive for Lyft and Uber during this summer because, just needed money to survive. But luckily, I had enough of my financial aid money left over. The San Diego State University actually gave us a little bit more money to cover our expenses. For financial aid, like FAFSA recipients got like $1,000 more or $800 more. So that really helped. Obviously the government stimulus, I got 1,200 or whatever it was. Can't remember now. I got that money. So, and then I managed to pick up some work, which we'll talk about more later. So I didn't, and then I'm pretty paranoid and pretty anxious about the pandemic in general. So I wasn't trying to drive for Lyft and Uber during this time. My mom lives with me, who's 70 years old. I have kids. There's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing, and maybe if I was solo and single, I wouldn't mind risking it. And if I got sick, just doing the whole quarantine, staying home thing, but working in between that, like for Lyft and Uber or something. But since there's a lot of moving parts that way, I wasn't willing to risk it. And I'm actually thankful for it because a lot has happened for me through this summer that really is kind of in line with what I hope my life will look like from here on out. I'm not making enough money yet to make it sustainable, but what I'm actually doing is like, okay, let me build on this. Hopefully this is giving me the opportunity to build on it, because certain things money-wise, like I'm actually deferred my car payment and I deferred my credit card payment. So there's things I'm not paying for right now because I'm allowed to because of the pandemic. But I'm also like making a little bit of money. There's just a lot of moving parts. Like I said, I guess that's the key word for today's episode is moving parts with a lot of things. So we'll talk about some of those moving parts that happened over the summer. And I'll start with just kind of more art focused. Like, what was my plan for the summer and what did I accomplish, and did I accomplish everything I had planned? And really I had 2 main pieces of artwork that I can think of. I feel like there was a third thing, but I'm failing to remember. But I had 2 main pieces of artwork to get to create and finish through the summer, and I managed to do those. We'll talk about those. I was also doing my daily drawing still for the most part, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. One of the big things that happened, it kind of was like a hangover from the end of the last semester, when March 13th is the date that I've been using that's when the campus closed. So that's when we all got sequestered to our houses. We got moved to off-campus reality, and I managed to, obviously land in my home Studio 1200 here. But because of like a few weeks after that, I started to think about the podcast that I've I'm doing, and it really helped kickstart jumping into those. So let's start with the podcast. I currently have 3 active podcasts, and I can say that now because I just published one on my Creative Mind podcast, which has been the least active for a long time. But just a couple days ago, I published a 2-hour kind of dump of information. If you really want to get in the weeds about who I am and what I've been thinking about, check it out. It's Creative Mind. It'll definitely be linked up in the description of this. So it's called Creative Mind. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's just a solo cast. It's just kind of like this without the video. So if you're driving around, you have a long car ride, or if you're just want to listen to me talk, check it out. It's pretty casual. It's pretty fun. I'd love to have you check it out. But the 2 ones that are much more active was my Word on the Street podcast, which is all about the Seattle and Northwest music community, because that's where I'm from originally before moving to San Diego. And I had been doing that podcast since 2014. It died off in 2019. But now 2020, I've published 21, I think. Since March 13th, I've published 21 episodes of the Word on the Street podcast. It's really cool to document the journey of the musicians in the Seattle Northwest music community. That's kind of where I'm from and why I'm still attached to knowing and being connected to that community. So I decided to use this pandemic as a time to kind of jumpstart that again. And then there's also the MFA Chronicles podcast, which I was kind of talking about at the beginning of this. So there's a podcast with the same name that is conversations with the kind of the cohort of graduates at my school I'm in right now, San Diego State University, but also hopefully beyond that, which I've managed to get a few people on, and one, a friend of mine who's an active artist from my high school days, from Seattle days. So he's been on, and then also I was able to reach out to somebody that lives in Korea and is a photographer, and that was a really cool kind of chance to do that. But as far as getting a broader net of artists, it's been really difficult on that podcast, and I'm not totally sure why. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the name of the podcast. People think it has to do specifically with being an MFA student when that's not really the case. And I just have to explain that a little better, because the MFA Chronicles just stands for I'm the person hosting the podcast and I'm the MFA. So it's like my chronicles, and here's another chapter of my chronicles, this conversation I'm having with this other artist. But the conversation is just an open-ended conversation about art. So we'll work on that. But, it's not terrible. I don't mind if it's only the artist that I'm in school with, because that was the main point of it. So I'm happy, or not the main point, but that was a big point. That was a big reason why starting it and doing it. But all these podcasts will be linked up. But the reason I'm mentioning these during this kind of recap of art that I've done over the summer is because I feel like they are part of my process as an artist, is these conversations. And I see my podcasts and even this video, I see this type of stuff, a piece of artwork, just as much as a painting that I would make or something else like that. So, and we'll talk more about that. Let's get into some more traditional forms of artwork. So the 2 main things that I did this summer was, and I'm really proud of how they turned out, was the It'll All Work Out Post-it Note mural and the Made in America mask series. And the thing that happened, both of them were really kind of, one of the main things that happened for me through the summer was this kind of awareness of politics, awareness of social justice, awareness of like reality of the way the world, our society works. Maybe not so much the world, but our society in America works. And just that's really affected me. So I've been able to funnel these kind of concepts into my artwork, and I'm really thankful for it, because the first year of grad school, I felt a really strong pressure. I feel a lot of pressure to think like socially about my artwork, not so much process oriented or not so much isolated to something just making art to make art. I felt like the San Diego State University School of Art and Design wants you to think broadly and socially, and kind of like wants you to have that. And I was really not interested in that kind of conversation at all, because I kind of always kind of pushed away politics and pushed away. I was like, I just want to make art that's just like make it because I like to make it and it's fun and it's not like heady. And sometimes I get a little bit turned off by the pretentious attitude that a lot of visual artists can have. It's just the way things are, and sometimes when you start talking about these social issues, it kind of gets pretentious at times. And it's just kind of weird for me. I'm not a big fan of it. But what I've decided to do, and one of the main things that I don't like about a lot of artwork is it's easy to talk about the problems of art. Like you say, oh, there's problems in our government, and then they make art about the problems. And I'm like, great, another person talking about the problems. And I want to present the solution along with the problem. Like, okay, this is what the problem I feel as the problem. This is what has inspired me to want to react to. But I also want to present a solution to that. I don't want to leave it as just like, look how awful this is, or look how whatever it may be. And typically art and like when you combine these social issues, it's usually talking about these negative things. Whenever you start talking about positive things, it starts to get passed off as cliche and passed off. Like the art world really doesn't like to amplify the positive as much. They like to amplify this kind of negative kind of like space of art. So all these things are swirling around while I'm making my art, and I really want to present the solution. So basically with these two pieces of artwork, I really felt like I was able to do that, like talk about what I'm frustrated with, but also combine it with what I feel like is a potential solution for these problems, for these ideas. So that's really important to me. So to talk specifically about each one, It Will All Work Out mural, Post-it note mural was from my first semester in school, I did a Post-it note mural that was just a make something big project, but I really like the aesthetic and effect of working with the Post-it notes, and I've been wanting to do something more with it since then. And it's evolved because of the pandemic and different things. Like originally I booked space in there's this place called the Installation Gallery on campus where you can just kind of book the time there, and I was going to use that space to do this Post-it note mural and try to make it interactive, but it didn't work out there. So I thought about the idea, like how can I do it here in this space that I'm in right now. And behind the camera is a now blank wall. I had some pictures on it and things, and I took it off. So I just used that space as my space to work on, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So definitely check it out. I'll make sure to link it up directly down below the like button for you, but you can also just go on the channel and scroll down my videos and you'll find it eventually. It's blue and yellow or orange. It'll all work out thumbnail, so you'll see it. So that was the first main kind of art project I did through the summer. But then the second one I did was this mask project because earlier after the pandemic kicked us all off campus, I made 5 masks, and I was trying to think about how to use masks as a piece of artwork, because I was really conflicted about selling masks, which I ended up doing, and I'll talk more about that later as well. But there's just a lot of ideas and conflicts around the use of the mask, what it represents, where it kind of represents 2020 in a lot of ways for me. But there's been so much more that's happened with the murder of George Floyd and just all the racial protests and our messed up president, all these different things that have happened. So I was just kind of layered these ideas together, used the mask as the canvas for other ideas, and also using video to portray that as well. And I'm really liking, so with both these projects, what I learned from the It'll All Work Out mural project was, personally, I don't feel like I dialed in the lighting well enough, and there's some other things that I used. I said, okay, I'm not satisfied with how that turned out. Let me make sure I'm conscious of that for this next round. And so when I did the Made in America video, I feel like I did a much better job of the video part, the lighting and different things like that. So I feel like I'm progressing. But the bottom line with both of these, a lot of what I've been saying is, and about the subject matter of the work, I feel like I've found something that I feel strongly about wanting to talk about, because before, like I said, I was just totally not into talking about politics and different things, but now I just feel like I can't not talk about politics, especially when it comes to justice in our society, in our country, when it comes to institutional racism and systematic oppression. And a lot of people just refuse to see those things and just can't see them or whatever, and to me they're just like, oh my god, I can't even believe I'm part of this country that's willing to be this way. And so that's where I've decided to use my voice. I've decided I don't think I could ever go back to not being an advocate for trying to amplify these issues. and these ideas, and try to do them in subtle ways, possibly at times in artistic ways, but not being like, what I've really taken to heart through this whole process is the idea of, if you're silent in the face of oppression, you're on the side of the oppressor. Is kind of like the quote. I don't know. Desmond Tutu is a South African, activist from the 60s, I think. I don't know exactly when. I don't remember. But when apartheid was a big thing, which was much longer than the 60s even. But yeah. So essentially, it's this idea like I can't just let injustice happen and not try to do something about it in a way, not try to like at least educate, or at least kind of like just say like, hey, I'm here, I'm an ally to these concepts, let me be here and do that. And that really the only way I know I can feel I can do that effectively is through my artwork. So yeah, so if you have any questions about those two projects, feel free to like comment in below and let me know, and I'd be happy to kind of fill in more details with them. The daily drawings, just to catch you up on daily drawings, I'm up to 211 drawings. I've actually been on a little bit of a break. I decided about a week and a half ago, maybe almost 2 weeks ago, I decided to take a staycation essentially from doing pretty much anything. I'll do these videos. I've been working on TikTok. I've been doing random things here and there. I fixed up my website, which I'll talk about more later. But I haven't been like, haven't been grinding as hard, because I realized that, even my original concept of going to grad school is like, what's the professional athlete's version of being a graduate student? And even professional athletes take at least a month off after their season's over. So this is kind of my month off that I'm decided to take. And then when I start back up on August 24th is the first day of classes, I plan to start my daily drawings again. I'm planning to do them slightly different. I want to work with ink and like painting with ink rather than drawing with ink in a way, and doing bigger sizes. I kind of moved throughout the year. I started with this size, what is it, 9 inches by 12 inches, and then I moved up to, I think it's 11 by 14 inches. I forget the next size bigger, and I actually kind of like that more, but now I want to move up to be even bigger and just continue this process. But so yeah, so still kind of, they're still there, but I'm taking a break from them. Couple of things that I did through the summer as well related to the art process is one of the things I managed to do is sell a bunch of old artwork, which I was really kind of happy about. Although I didn't make a lot of money on them, I put them on eBay, and I managed to sell out completely of all the artwork I put on there, which was really cool. The first like handful, 5 of them, they only sold for like 1 cent because I put it at like a 1 cent starting bid. And then I decided, well, let me just at least put it for like $5. So most of them sold for $5. A couple of them might have sold for $1 more than that. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened with that. This was a pretty cool experience to do that. I also kind of made sure I applied to whatever scholarships I could. So in the process of applying to the scholarships, it kind of motivated me to kind of work on my website to get kind of a better online portfolio going. And I'm still like working on it in a way, but at least I feel like I got an online portfolio to the point that it's respectable. I think it looks fairly good. It looks fairly good on mobile. It looks fairly good on just desktop. So, and it doesn't look bad. So I'm pretty happy about that. And hopefully when these people that are looking at the scholarships and looking at the online portfolio will think it's good enough to help me get the scholarship. So we'll see what that goes. So you can check it out too. Thezim.com, my main website, you can start there, but thezim.com like splash page, main page, is basically a link tree, but in the very first link is my online portfolio, so you can click that, check it out. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And these pieces of artwork that I've been talking about and all the artwork that I did through the summer, through last year, is on there. Pretty much all of it, I believe. Anything that's I feel like I wanted to share is on there. So check it out. So yeah, so website. One of the things I might plan on, I'm kind of on the fence about, is maybe switching over to like a Squarespace site to then start being able to do e-commerce on my site directly instead of through Etsy, which is the next thing I'll talk about. I managed to sell, like, the artwork I sold was all through eBay, But I also started selling masks through eBay and doing this kind of trying to do this, pay what you can kind of scenario where I'd start the bid at 1 cent and just whatever you could afford. But it's a little awkward through there. I managed to sell a few, not as many, like it wasn't consistent enough for me to feel motivated to keep doing it. So I moved them over to my Etsy site, and I managed to sell a couple off my Etsy site. And then it's an Etsy site, alexanderthomas2015.etsy.com. Also linked up below the like button. But there's only one on there right now, which I plan to make more, just to be on there, just in case people want them and find them, and they want my style of masks, which are like the tie-on style. But I got kind of, since, I don't know, I started to feel a little more justified by selling masks because of this is where I am. At first I felt guilty for not donating them, but I just couldn't afford that kind of time and materials and stuff. But now where I just need to make a living and survive as well. So there's a combination. What is that? A lot of moving parts again. That's another thing about the selling of the mask. But basically the bottom line is I'm feeling okay about selling masks now. So if you want one of my masks, you can check it out. Let me know. I'd be happy to work with you directly or through Etsy. There's only one, like I said, there's only one on there right now. So the other thing I mentioned early is I did manage to get hooked up with a job this summer with editing videos for a local arts institute for youth called Arts, A Reason to Survive, which is really really a cool experience to be able to keep working on video editing and make a little money off of it. Then also figuring out how to charge for my services. That's like one of the hardest things that as artists that we have to figure out is like, okay, how much do we charge? How much do we, sell a piece of artwork for or sell a service for? And what I've come up with that's really working well for me is starting with, I can't think of the right word, but like retainer? I don't know, like a guarantee up front. If you want to work with me for a service, it's going to cost you X amount just to start with, and then an hourly rate, a time and materials kind of rate after that. I don't like, and I avoid as much as possible bidding a complete job. Like I do not want to bid a job and say, this is what you get for X amount. I just think I personally feel like that's not a great practice. Maybe because you never know. There's always some variables. So I'd rather have that kind of option of if jobs start to go long or run over, or if they want too many revisions or just different things like that, you have that hourly rate to back you up, and they know it up front. So one of the ways I've done it two ways now. One way is I go like, I need a guarantee of X amount, and that's for like 10 hours of working. Once you complete that 10 hours, then I will start charging you. But that upfront guaranteed fee is this amount, and even if you don't hit that 10 hours, then that's whatever. I still got that money because it makes it worth it for me. Because sometimes though I've found is I work really fast when I get it, and so sometimes a project will be like, I'll charge an hourly rate and I get it done in like a half hour, and then I don't even make a full hour rate, and I'm like, it wasn't even worth it for me to change my whole setup, my gear, change my mental headspace to get started on this project unless I know I'm gonna make at least like $100 or something. So whatever it is for you that makes it feel like it's worth it just to change your what you're working on, just to go like, okay, now it's time to devote energy to this thing. How much is that worth? How much would it be worth you to make that change? And so I just am trying to find that number, and it's been working out so far, so I'm pretty happy about it. But I like that, always saying like, just to even talk to me, just to even start a project, it's going to be this much, period. And then we'll add the rest on, instead of going like hourly, or instead of keeping it within like it's only ever going to cost $500 to complete it. I don't do that. I say like, if you want to start it, we'll start. And that gives me a way of saying like, maybe I'd make my hourly rate a little bit lower, but that upfront cost is like $300 just right out the gate. Just pay me that, and then because I getting a kind of feel for how much things cost in services wise. That doesn't answer the question of how much to charge for like a product that's already made. You're just gonna have to feel that out as time goes on, but I guess if people like it, they'll pay anything for it. So yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on there. I'm really happy with just getting my foot in the door with some of that stuff. So hopefully maybe they'll share my name around, because the other thing I found I think is highly valuable, and I highly recommend, is like emailing back as soon as you hear from somebody. They say, hey, we were thinking about hiring you. You email the same day and go like, great, let's work it out. Like, don't make them sit around. And I find like that easy communication and getting that going really helps a lot. So, and just not assuming that, and allowing yourself to, figure it out as you go is a big thing. Like I'm allowing myself more and more these days to go like, maybe I don't know everything that you need, but I'll figure it out if it's, and I'll tell you if I'm not the right person for this job or something like that. So I just allow myself that. I'm trying to say yes first and then figure out later if it's an actual yes. Like if there's something they need that I just have no ability to do, then I'll say like, look, I can do this, this, and this, but that part of it I'm not going to be able to do. So allowing myself to say that and do that instead of faking it and then doing a bad job because I really don't know how to do that thing. I'm kind of rambling now a little bit, but that's kind of what's been going through my head with working and doing that kind of stuff. Some of the plans coming up, I think I covered, I don't know, I feel like I didn't cover everything I wanted to talk about, but some of the plans coming up for this coming year, like I said, is August 24th is when I'm starting school again. There's other than the actual classes, I'm signed up for a class in the film and video department. I can't remember the name of the department, theater, film, and something. But anyways, it's outside of the School of Art and Design, so I'm excited about that, to learn more about film and that kind of stuff. I signed up for an independent study to do artwork with the head of my department. I'm signed up for an interdisciplinary critique class, and I'm signed up for a mandatory seminar that all grad students need to take about like 20th century art or something like that. So I got 12 credits, which is more than I need. I only need 9, but I decided that interdisciplinary critique class is something that I want to take like every time, and it's not that much of a burden, really. It's like I'm making art and showing it. It's not like I'm not doing much extra for it. I do a little bit of reading, but I like conversations, and I love the critique part. That's the main reason I'm in art school, and one of the main reasons is to do the critique part. So there's that. So as far as what I'm predicting for workload seems like it'll be manageable. I'm definitely prioritizing. So since we're all in pandemic times, my kids are also doing distance learning, and so they're going to be my priority, figuring out what I need to do to make sure that they're able to learn and get what they need. So they're actually my number one priority when it comes to this coming up school year. And we'll see how that plays. And I'm planning on just telling my professors and say, hey, I have my kids I don't know the perfect schedule, but basically every other week, let's just say that. I have my kids half the time here, and when they're here, I need to prioritize them. I don't know what that's going to look like for my classes, but I just want to be transparent about it, so here you go. So that's my plan there, and I'll let you know how that goes as time goes on. There's another important concept that kind of relates to both what's coming up for the next year, next 2 years possibly, of being a graduate student, and also, and it kind of manifested through the summer. So it's this kind of combination of what happened this summer and what the plan is now. And it's basically the concept of a mission statement. And let me explain that. Like in this video and in previous videos, I've talked about the concept of wanting to approach going to grad school as like, what's the professional athlete's version of becoming a Master of Fine Arts student at San Diego State University? Like how could I align that kind of concept to being a professional athlete? And what I see as a professional athlete is someone that's willing to put in the extra work, that's willing to just grind it out and go and kind of just really hustle and really make it happen. So like that's like a layer of concept that I wanted to apply to this, but it's like how do you stay focused on that? Like, sure, that's a concept I want to do, but how do you stay focused on that concept? And what I discovered was, creating like a mission statement for yourself. You know, like a lot of times when we're a part of a club or a business or a nonprofit or something like that, there'll be some kind of like mission statement that defines what it is you're doing. So why not apply that to yourself as an individual? And so for right now, my mission statement is to go to grad school and get the most out of it. That's my mission statement. And so how that's been helping me so far is it helps me kind of focus my thoughts, both practical, like physical thoughts of like what I want to do physically, like the videos I want to make or the time I want to spend doing certain things, but also the mental space, like what am I thinking about? Am I thinking about something that's not going to help me achieve that mission statement of going to grad school and getting the most out of it? So like an example I'll give you is like, so I watch a decent amount of TikTok, and I see the stories on TikTok and people like doing these cool things, and I'm like, oh man, I could totally do that. But it's like, and it starts to get me kind of depressed because I'm thinking like, oh man, they look like they're having some great success with this thing that I could totally do too, and I like it, and I could totally, but then I have to think like, then I get kind of, like I said, I get kind of depressed about it. But then I just remind myself like, well, if I devoted energy to that right now, that would not be helping me achieve my mission statement of going to grad school and getting the most out of it. So it allows me to like let that go a lot easier. I don't dwell on it, and I don't feel like my self-worth doesn't go down because I'm not achieving some level of like success it looks like somebody else is achieving. And I just know like, well, I'm in grad school, and I'm like, well, I'm already, that should be marked for myself, and it does mark for myself a level of success. I'm like, not everybody can say they're in grad school. So it's like, I'm like, just let myself breathe in that. And then I go like, well, and I just say, focus, like that idea will not help me achieve going to grad school and getting the most out of it. So I just starting to like, just put up any concept I have, anything I'm thinking about, I just put it up against that mission statement and go, and it allows me to like let things go a lot easier if it's not going to help me achieve my mission statement. And that mission statement will last for at least until 2022, because that's when I should graduate grad school. And then at that point, I'll decide on a new mission statement and say, okay, let me figure out what will align, what things I can do that will help align the new mission statement. So that's kind of an important concept that I think I've grown into this summer. A couple things that I do know that I'm planning to do right out the gate, like right when the first day of school, is I plan to buy a iPad Pro because I need to buy it within the school year, because I can get kind of reimbursed. It's just like more loan money, but I can get more loan money to pay for it, but it has to happen within the school year. You're allowed to purchase, there's certain things you're allowed to purchase, like computers and other like healthcare costs and different things like that the kind of financial aid will then reimburse you for. So I'm planning to do that right out the gate because I want an iPad Pro, because I want to start getting into Procreate and designing on Procreate and designing on the iPad Pro. Plus I believe I'll be able to do a better workflow with taking notes and different things, especially next year when I'm back on campus. It'll be like my note taking. So all my notes will be digital, which is something I wanted to mention as well. If you're watching this because you're curious just about the Master of Fine Arts, graduate school kind of process. And one of the things that's really kind of settled in, I haven't talked about yet, I don't think, in some of my previous videos, is the importance of note taking and doing that right away. Like I didn't understand it until like a few weeks into my second semester, really how to start just basically taking notes. Like you want a notepad with you all the time, because you never know when you're going to have a conversation with somebody that's going to mention an artist or mention something about your artwork, or so you just want to be writing down all this stuff so you have all this kind of data and like reference material to go back to when you're starting to like think about why you made a piece of artwork, and you want to reference your inspirations and different things, and you have a lot of places to pull from. I believe especially when you're starting to write your thesis, I think it looks really good to have that kind of reference. You say, well, the reason I did this is because this artist did that at this one time, and blah blah blah, and kind of really, and it just gives you more to write about and more to talk about. So just note taking like all the time, like every conversation you have with every peer, a student, even undergrad to a to a professor, to a visiting artist, like notes, just writing down everything they have to say about your work, or even you have to say about their work. If you're like in a group critique and other people are getting critiqued and stuff comes up, you just write down things that inspire you about their conversation. It's not even directly related to you. So note taking is a big thing. So I'm hoping that like having an iPad Pro will help me consolidate my note taking, because last year when I did do it, it was all over the map. It's like some of it's in notebooks, some of it's digital, some of it's typed, some of it's just like some of it's in sketchbook, some of it's in, you know, notepad like for writing. It's just like all over the place. So I have yet still to consolidate all those notes into one place, which I'm hoping to do before I start. Well, I only have about a week left, but before I start. And the other thing that I'm looking to purchase is another DSLR for video recording mainly. So I have 2 decent cameras so setting up different shots, and I found I just need a second camera. It just seems, yeah, I just need one. Plus I wouldn't mind upgrading the camera I have. This camera was fine, but it's not that great. So if I could upgrade to something that might work a little better, and I'm hoping to get the Z50, a Nikon Z50 with the 2 lens kit. So which costs about $1,200, and that'll just be a expense out of my pocket somehow. So hopefully I can hustle and make that happen. And then also the last thing I really hope to get is a table saw, because I'm not really gonna have access to the wood shop like I was hoping on campus. Because last semester I did take a class in the wood department just so I could have access to the wood, you know, the tools there. But now that's not really gonna happen. And the one tool I want to really be able to use is a table saw, because I want to make like boxes and things for some of the artwork that I plan on making in the future. So those are the things. So if you're able to help out with any of that, please do. Below the like button will be the links to all the things, including my Patreon account, which is patreon.com/thezim. I was managed over the summer to get 2 people to sign up on the Patreon. So thanks a lot, you guys, for being a part of this Patreon for me and believing in what I'm creating and doing. And if you want to help this as well, Patreon is a great way to do it, but also PayPal, Venmo are the things that I have set up for receiving help through finances. So please consider it. Or if you have a hookup with any of these, like the iPad or the camera or the table saw, where you can get me like a cost price on something, that's also very helpful. So those are the ways you can support, and of course subscribing to this channel, thumb it up, and then leave the comments and do all that stuff. So if you have any questions for me, if you want to continue this conversation with me in any way, down below the like button is all the ways you can get a hold of me, plus definitely comments on this video itself. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk with you about my experience being a grad student. Of course, I have a playlist of older videos that you can check out. All of them, like this one, are just kind of long form talking to you about the experience. So, all right, until next time, be loving, kind, and patient. Peace.